Let's turn that off. Let's turn off the metronome. We don't need it.
Spoilercast.
Spoilercast. Spoilercast. It's a spoilercast.
It's a
Spoilercast. 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 It's a spoilercast. Hey.
Oh.
Hey.
Oh.
Hey.
Oh. Welcome to the Spoilercast for Spider-Man No Way Home.
Wow, that was so nice.
We could have rehearsed it.
It's better when it's improv. It's more
Yeah,
fun.
you're right. You're right. Guess what we just saw? I think we already said it.
I did, yeah.
Spider-Man!
No Way Home. Yeah! Welcome to the Spoilercast, where we will talk about spoilers. So, you will get to hear our in-depth thoughts and feelings about this movie.
We talked about it on podcast 46 a little bit, but now we're going to go into our in-depth spoiler thoughts. As Jacob said, this is the spoiler warning. Should we introduce ourselves before we get started with talking about the movie?
Let's, shall we?
Hi, I'm Logan Riley Bruner.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Van Suarez.
I'm Jacob Wade.
And I'm Michael Jorge.
Special guest for the spoiler
Yeehaw.
Yay!
Hey, Mike.
You just saw
welcome.
the movie with us.
Yes, for your first time.
We have all seen it twice, Jeremy, myself, and Jacob, but Mike joined us for a special viewing before the spoiler cast for his first time seeing the movie.
This is true.
Yes. It's been a whole month, a little bit more since this movie came out, so...
Tom Holland, Instagram storied
Yeah,
about it, so
you know.
We figured...
it's time.
It's time.
It's always interesting, the border. When can you talk about spoilers? When is it socially acceptable?
Starting to feel like a month is the spot.
Yeah.
The movie came out before Christmas, and you know what? It's well after New Year's now. And
It's time to talk about it.
it's time to talk about it.
I'm excited.
Gosh, where do we start?
How about we start with Mike's baseline,
Fresh
first
take.
impression, takeaway, just
Mike.
feelings and thoughts.
It's definitely my favorite Marvel movie that I've seen thus far.
Wow.
That's
100%.
High praise.
Yeah, I think Marvel set a really high, expectation to pass with Infinity War and Endgame.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I feel like the span of, how long has it been since Endgame? 3 or 4 years? 3 years?
3, 4 years?
It
2018,
happened
so 4
4 years ago, something
Yeah.
like that. In the span of 4 years, they were able to replicate a
That
lot
hype.
of familiar emotions from
Yeah.
specifically Endgame.
How did
I
they
feel
do
like.
it?
Well, they had a lot of nostalgia that they reached back and grabbed and
reached
drug
back.
forward.
Scorpions and
Dragged
shit.
it through the multiverse.
Yeah, honestly.
You guys like nostalgia pops? Oh, we got a lot of those.
You gotta solve the bangs.
But yeah, I talking about nostalgia pumps. I loved it. Let me tell you something. It was so hard for 1 month to stay to bypass social media ruining this movie. It was like the Olympics. I swear to you, it was like the moment that you saw Tom Holland's face, Zendaya's face, and, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire. You were like, ah!
I don't want to know.
But yeah, there's a
Where do
lot
we
to
s-
unpack.
where
But
do we
there is a
start?
lot to-
Let's start at the very beginning,
Yeah.
shall we?
Okay, so the movie starts, right? And J. Jonah Jameson is talking his hot shit about our boy Peter Parker.
Okay, we start right where the last one left off.
Which is great.
Good. Yes.
Right after Halloween.
Great
so
place
in
to
terms
start.
of timeline, we're
Between
Right.
Halloween and Christmas.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean in terms
Right
of
after Eternals, I would say.
Oh.
Yeah,
there's Halloween pumpkins in Eternals.
Yeah, I think so.
They
I think
visited.
No Way Home and Eternals kind of happen roughly maybe
Yeah.
so very similar and close together.
next to each other, sure.
When they visit Phastos' house, there's pumpkins outside, which is usually October.
Autumnal
related.
feeling, yeah.
Right? And
Wow,
then
we're
this
really-
this one is take
trying
down
to
the
figure out
Halloween.
where they are.
Well, no, because that
Right?
makes sense because especially since in WandaVision, right? I
Yeah.
feel like one of the big questions that was raised was well, where is Steven? Where is everybody?
Yeah,
number
what's
one?
Steven been
But
doing?
where was Steven? What was Steven doing? Because
Do
he
you think
would be
this
like
and
the number one.
WandaVision are happening at the same time?
Oh, it's very likely.
Yeah, 100%.
Because-
Because if it's Halloween, Halloween was kind of around the same
In
time.
WandaVision.
But that's in its
WandaVision
whole
was
pocket.
There's a
WandaVision
Halloween-
was months earlier because At least the beginning is, because it happens a couple days after the events of Endgame, because Monica has just come back when Westview gets started, and then it's like 2 or 3 weeks until Monica goes inside for the first time.
And even though there is a Halloween episode, it is all in Wanda's little, dimension of reality, so like, it could be Christmas, it doesn't really matter almost.
Yeah.
It's definitely before Hawkeye.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, yeah.
At least until the end.
Until the end, yeah. It's
in which case we meet Hawkeye
where
it is,
at the same
and it's
place
just it's just happening.
Oh my god,
that's crazy to think that like also all of Hawkeye happened, right? And it's like, well, you're in New York. Where the hell is Peter?
I remember you asking me that question and having to squirm because I was like, I can't tell you that.
But
it's the last thing he said to me before the movie started, and I was like, "How about you just shut the fuck up?"
The movie starts.
Quiet.
Do you want me to spoil it now, or do you want to watch?
There was no option. Jacob just told me that, and I quote,
"Shut the fuck up."
Yeah, exactly.
Shut the fuck up.
Just for 2 seconds, just watch it. Yeah, but oh man,
there's a great one take back at the apartment.
Oh, when they're moving through and they're closing the windows, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and they go through, and then everyone finds out that he's Spider-Man. There's a bit more montage. I like. This movie made me feel for Peter Parker when he's like having to like deal with these two lives colliding. You know, it's funny, yes, but then it's like, damn, like. Like he puts it really well. I'm the most famous person in the world, and I'm still broke.
Yep.
Yeah, I felt that. There was also something else that was said during the movie, but yeah, I definitely felt that. I think that it was one of the, at least with like this trilogy of Spider-Man movies that we've seen or depiction within the MCU, they really went for something a lot more serious and like showing. What what heroism actually takes.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's been a really big theme between Hawkeye and this movie. That's like, it's not all just
I feel like that's like always a big theme in like any Spider-Man movie. It's like that identity that, you're like, who is like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? I feel like that's something like really well looked into into the Spider-Verse and also this one as well. Yeah. It's like your Uncle Ben moment, like
I think, and it might be a little bit of a reach, but I'm gonna say it anyway. There was an interesting moment seeing it the second time when May and Peter are talking about what they're gonna do, and Peter is like, "This isn't my responsibility. I'm gonna send them. Let's send them back." And I heard "send them back," and I just like thought about everything happening in the United States right now, and just like the immigrant border crisis and refugees, and it was like they need to go back where they came from and just deal with it themselves. And May being like, "What are you talking about?
We need to help them." Well, yeah, that's really what like Feast does. They like help.
They help those in need, and the idea of like the idea of. Send them back, they can deal with their own problems versus like, no, we have to help them. It's our responsibility.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I loved that.
Yeah.
It's not a reach. That's not a reach.
No, and I think that
great.
Comics are political in that way.
That is true. People try to make them not political, but
they have those metaphors.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the X-Men. We're talking about Spider-Man now. I think that moment, now looking back on all 3 series, I think there's a defining moment for what each of those series, what that Peter stands for. And I think that within those 2 series, no one ever decided to take the look of the lens of, well, if I'm trying to think, if Goblin had never, gotten killed in that moment, right? And it had just, let's say, missed him, right? And he went back to being Norman.
Yeah.
Would Peter have helped him?
How do you live with that responsibility? How do you move forward? Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a really defining thing that I feel like that whole scene.
Yeah. I think, speaking of all the trilogies, I think it's really cool and interesting now that we kind of have like almost a 8-film origin for Tom Holland's Peter.
Yeah, right.
We've got like all the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, all the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, and then 3 Tom Holland movies to get to, and he is now Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That the 3, if you want to simplify it a little more, like the three movies that we had.
Stories, kinda.
Yeah, 3 origin stories as their
into
trilogy
one big
being their
conclusion.
own origin story. 'Cause
Yeah.
I remember when we talked about Homecoming. There was this feeling of like, yay, no origin story, no Uncle Ben, we don't need any of that.
No Spider-Man.
And then looking at like all 3 movies together, it's like, oh no, it was all the
Yeah.
origin story.
Yeah.
It was
So
all the
smartly
start.
done.
Yeah.
And now we get Spider-Man. Now he is a superhero, whereas before he was just Peter,
Yeah.
who was
Which is
helping
a high school
out.
kid
Yeah.
That was trying.
Peter trying to be a hero, and now he is a hero.
Yeah.
He did something
Totally.
extremely heroic.
And I really think that it was on the onset of them announcing that they weren't going to do an origin story when they brought Peter into the MCU, and they were like, we're not killing Uncle Ben again. If you guys want to go see Uncle Ben die,
There's
go
2
watch-
other
there's
series.
2 other trilogies that you could go watch and have that happen. But I think their subversion of our expectation
Oh yeah.
was fantastic, because then they made us get emotionally invested into a character that we had
cried.
been for 3 different
I
series.
cried.
And a great take on Aunt May as well.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, we got character
100%.
development. We got like progress throughout every movie. Her relationship with Happy Hogan develops,
Yeah.
and then they break up in this movie, which
crashes
is like,
and
oh,
burns
it's
to the
so,
ground.
you know.
It is really cool that she's the one that tells him with great power has to come.
Mhm.
And I do like the change that they make, because I like with great power comes great responsibility. It sounds so comic book, so like elegant, but to have with great power must also come great responsibility. I was like, what a
It's a nice
beautiful like
variation.
little
Yeah.
tweak
Well, I
that
think
just
that's-
makes
that's-
it.
I think that's actually like, isn't that the original saying of it, and then it was tweaked later on?
I know that.
don't know.
Something
I
like
need
that,
to.
yeah.
I would need to go fact check that. But I don't know.
We'll call the producers.
With that being said, I think that that's another great nostalgia trip, but also use of something that, had they used it sooner, everybody would have been like, we get it.
Eye roll.
Okay, we understand.
They
But
did a
they
really
did it
good
such
job.
a. They
Yeah.
used all of the things that could have hurt them, honestly, really, really well.
Yeah. It feels like a really fast movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I realized on the second viewing, I was like, oh, we're already here.
Yeah, even like
Oh,
reading-
we're already
even,
there.
like skimming through the synopsis, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know.
Especially since the fact that next that chronologically happens
Yes. So
is that they're dealing with life and the struggle of like
college.
getting into college.
Yeah.
It's a stressful
On-
time for anyone, let alone Spider-Man and friends.
It's
Yeah.
better, right?
Vying for MIT and hoping to get there.
Right, and I think the ultimate, you can really see the child in Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Mhm.
I hasten to say the word die. However, I think really grow up and understand that his heart might be in the right place with some things, but he's going about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His heart is in the right place when he tries to hunt down the what was it, the vice dean from
Yeah.
MIT.
Well, his
To
heart
do
was
that.
also in the right place when he went to go see like Doctor Strange and was like, "Hey, I need help with this."
Yeah.
You know, they go through the whole thing of like trying to do the spell, and
You've already pleaded your case.
and then it's like, well, if you've already tried talking to them, and it's like that kind of
Sometimes,
that
sometimes
naivete.
Peter Parker can be the superhero.
Yeah, you know.
Not anymore, but
I feel like this movie really sets up Peter Parker to be kind of like the Sony PlayStation Spider-Man with like whole like menu of suits and like
his own
his own like sidekick
Selection.
kinda that he like
yeah.
will get
Ned?
to men.
Oh, I guess
no,
not.
not Ned. No.
Damn it.
Like I think that Miles Morales is going to be the center of the next trilogy. They've said that they want to work with Tom again, and I think that he could be that big brother Peter now that he's been the little brother Peter,
Yes.
of many Spider-Men. He knows how it works.
Yeah.
He can.
Well, yeah.
I think there's great potential there. Also, they've already introduced Aaron Davis into the MCU
Yeah.
Yeah.
with
Donald
Homecoming.
Glover.
Yep.
Donald Glover. They've gotta bring him back to be the Prowler.
Mm-hmm.
We hope.
They'd be dumb not to. And at that point, maybe they'll be relying on nostalgia from Homecoming years.
Right.
So we'll see how old they let Tom Holland get before they make another Spider-Man trilogy.
Yeah.
However, having the end of No Way Home set up Peter as being alone.
Mm-hmm.
He's got no friends, no family, right?
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about the ending?
Let's we are. That's what we're doing.
Great.
I do, obviously.
Clearly, yeah. You've begun.
He makes a new suit crafted like
hand stitched like the old days, you know.
Well, yeah, hand stitched with a machine.
Yeah.
And based off of his two brothers' suits, kind of, because it's the first time he has a suit that's just red and blue and no electricity.
I mean, his homecoming suit at the end.
Yeah, but this is his.
But that was a Stark suit, you know. Like I'm saying, without like the gadgets, it's just. It seems like it's just elastic.
Which is cool because the conflict in Far From Home was like, I don't want to be the next Iron Man.
If you can't be a hero without the suit, then you shouldn't have the suit.
There's all that pressure on him to be the next thing.
Iron Man.
And it's like he doesn't have to be the next thing. He can just be himself.
Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
And that, I mean, it's just so exciting.
I would love to see Miles Morales coming at some point, but Peter's going to have to deal with some symbiote goo first.
Oh yeah!
Before we get to that, before we get to the post-credit discussion,
he's like in the apartment alone. Like it's just like it's a really nice image to set up our imagination of where Peter can.
Yes, because they also have opened the door for them to now, give a little bit more on the side of the way that traditionally Peter's story is told, right? Because we could see him now the next time that we see him, right? Imagine someone taking pictures of something and pulling it away, and it's
Peter
Tom Holland's face
at the bugle,
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
get me pictures of Spider-Man.
It just
okay.
opens.
Keep your friends close, your enemies closer.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I love what you said about it setting up our expectations of what Peter could become. And I think in the MCU, that's the biggest danger that MCU movies can fall into, is that as solo, stand on their own, nothing around them films, it's not for me, it's not the most satisfying conclusion. I know that there is something to come. I know that there's going to be another movie where I see what happens to Peter. But the movie ends with, and Peter is alone. And he made this heroic sacrifice, and he's going to have to figure it out from here. We'll see what he does next, which is exciting, but it gives me that same Infinity War feel. That same, and now I wait for the next one. In eager anticipation.
That's how Marvel is going to
go from here on out.
That's how they've been since after credit scenes were.
It's always how they've been. Where it's the next one.
And I think that
it doesn't feel as monumental of a cut as Infinity War did with half the universe disappearing. You know.
It doesn't feel as monumental, but it definitely, for me, still feels like I disagree that end credit scenes are where it started. Iron Man ended with an ending. We were like, oh, Iron Man is over. And then we got an end credit scene that was there's more. Mm-hmm. But the movie ended. The movie had a conclusive period.
And I feel like period. But concluded.
At the end of Iron Man, somebody could argue, right, that the statement I am Iron Man will leave your audience to then feels a similar way that you're saying that you feel.
Yeah,
that it's
true.
very much, well,
he is Iron Man
now that he is you just told the world for the first time that this person is a superhero.
And all the Spider-Man movies have ended that way. Homecoming ended with May finding out, and Far From Home ended with his identity being revealed.
The world finding out, yeah.
But
this one ends with everyone unfinding out.
Yeah, right?
You know what I mean? But again, in no way am I trying to...
No. It for me, I am Iron Man, as a movie viewer, makes me go, he's accepted his responsibility, period. He has completed the arc that he was going through. This movie's arc is he needs to take responsibility as he needs to step up as a hero, which is great. I just am left at the end feeling he lost. He won. They all got away, but Peter lost. For me, it's unsatisfying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get that. And I think for me, a big takeaway of the ending, on top of that, at least the thing that for me gives me a little bit of like a ray of hope, is the fact that the ending of that movie, I'm talking about the very end montage that we see of him flying through the city, is like, I think that is a statement, right? Like, before, yes, Peter Parker was Spider-Man, right? But I think that with the new suit and that presentation that they gave us, that was very much a statement of, I am Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like
it really felt the first
this
time.
This is my Spider-Man.
Yeah, this is the first time that it felt like, in a way, Peter was taking command of Spider-Man.
what Spider-Man stands for.
Exactly.
There came a point where Spider-Man stood for Peter Parker and Peter Parker stood for murderer, you know? It was almost like the name.
You know what I mean? But he's also been following a whole host of people who have, in a way, been kind of making decisions for him, in a way, right?
Tony.
We'll talk about
Cap.
Yeah.
Cap. Captain. Oh wait, was it
Tony.
Cap for Tony? It was Tony
Tony.
first. Yeah, in Civil War, right? To convince him to come there in the very beginning, off rep, right? Then we have again Tony in Homecoming, which he kind of like really takes focus of his life. Aunt May as well, right? I will say, because she very much influences the way that Peter dictates. I mean, Peter controls his life.
Right.
Sure.
And then like Happy and Nick.
Yeah.
But I think you're almost making the argument that Norman makes, that Peter hasn't been in control of his entire life and everyone makes decisions for him, and
Yes.
I mean, was
Which-
he lying?
Yes,
though?
he wasn't lying.
yes, Peter has made most of the decisions in his life and had other people guide him and tell him their advice. Tony took the suit from him once. Peter led to everything that happened with Vulture. That was all Peter making choices and I'm gonna do and I'm gonna do and I'm gonna do. Nick Fury told him what to do with Mysterio, but a lot of that was like, I want to be a hero, I want to be a hero, I want to be a hero.
But Nick Fury's been off planet for a year, so that was a
scroll.
Yes.
Yeah?
Quote Nick quote.
Quote Nick quote.
Quote Nick quote. So it could be, what I'm saying is it could be construed into that was like someone else telling him what to do, but there did come a point that Mysterio was even like, go home, kid, I've got it, and then he was like, I'm Spider-Man, I'm going to save the day.
Right. To me,
Right, but I
think
think
the ending isn't unsatisfying. It's bittersweet, you know.
Yes.
Okay.
And I can see how those two can overlap, where we don't feel like we have that like complete sense of story, but I'm like, I feel like this is the coming of age, you know, like you said, this has been the origin story, and now it's like like you said, it's a statement. He is Spider-Man at this point, and like it's sad that Peter doesn't have all these people with him, but it's like, I know Spider-Man. I know that he can get back to where, and he's going to. He has that attitude of like he's gonna, he's gonna reunite eventually.
He's gonna remember him.
Exactly. He's not gonna stay in that dark place. He's always gonna keep like going up, and that's kind of always what like Spider-Man is like all about, and like giving people that hope, and like being like anyone can wear the mask. That was a big thing in Into the Spider-Verse. Like anyone can be Spider-Man, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's really like Spider-Man is like that icon in the MCU.
I would have wanted a little more of that hope that you're talking about, because I see it in like the moments you guys are talking about. I see the the glimmer of it, the like he's gonna keep going.
Yeah.
But just like one more moment of just like people still being like, oh, Spider-Man, we need you. Some neighborhood moment that's like he is
like Paul Giamatti coming up at the end of a movie in a giant rhinoceros machine, and then Spider-Man being like, "Don't worry, I got
it!" I think it's the new suit is hope itself. Like he's still gonna be Spider-Man, even though everything that he's done as Spider-Man has just led to destruction and pretty much ruined his life. Two, like the sweet. Having this whole prepared speech for MJ and not being able to deliver it and deciding,
not
being
to do
mature
it.
enough
Loved
to...
that.
Yeah, right? There was another thing I was going to say. Fuck!
Living on his own?
Like living on his own, but not really. Come back to me.
I think my counterpoint already would be, what other choice does he have?
He could have told her.
Well,
I mean in terms of like his life. Like, right, the idea of he makes a new suit, keeps being Spider-Man.
The other Spider-Men definitely inspire him to keep going, and he's like, don't tell me that you know how I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. Don't say you... Yeah, don't say
love all that.
100%. But, like, I think he understands what they mean now, because, like, he lost his MJ. Yeah. He lost Uncle Ben, and those individual losses.
He gets both of them.
He gets both of them in this movie.
Yeah.
So it's like if they can, they're old. This one's 10 years older than me, and this one's I don't even know how much older.
If they can keep going, so can I.
Yeah.
Also, I think that like, you know, commenting on your point that you were just trying to be like, well, what if? Like, what other possibilities are there for him besides this?
Besides being Spider-Man.
Yes. I mean, on the introduction of Tobey Maguire coming on screen and the first time that we see him, I think it's really important to note the fact that Andrew Garfield was the only one that was in a Spider-Man costume.
Tobey was wearing it under the
Yes, but there's a difference between being prepared, right?
And
versus,
living as
versus old habits dying hard.
My counterpoint for you would be that Tobey had a choice. Peter no longer does. Peter can't go back to school. He doesn't exist. There is no record of Peter Parker ever being born. Yeah. Getting a job as Peter Parker is going to be tough. Getting the place to live is...
who knows how he got it?
Who knows how he got that?
Backdoor deal.
Knew someone at, like, feast somehow, like, remembering, but, like...
Well, intangible items connected to Peter, okay?
Yeah?
Don't disappear.
Right.
We see that with the necklace, and we see that with something else that he gave. It was something
the mark on her.
So
something caused by Peter still happened.
I think it's reasonable to assume, right, that the thing that was forgotten was all knowledge, all memory knowledge of Peter Parker existing. However, he still, I think, would have his documentation and things of his existence, like his social security number and his thing, because I don't think that it would erase that out of a database.
But no one remembers Peter Parker being born.
That's right.
It doesn't matter if you have the paper. Legal paper.
No one remembers.
Nobody can remember that I was born, but if I show them my state ID and my birth certificate,
interesting.
Yeah, that's true because the spell is make everyone forget, not erase Peter Parker from existence. That's the difference.
Make everyone forget Peter Parker.
Yeah,
it's knowledge based. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, the events that he took place in would not have happened.
And that's why
all of the objects that he touched that had a, because I think there's also this theme, at least within, I can't remember if it's within the MCU that they stated this, but that like kind of in a way that in objects hold memory to them. Right, that there's memory attached to inanimate objects, so it's not so much. I feel like I'm repeating myself. I think that it's very much the fact that we're talking about. He's specific enough that it's targeting people's memory.
Yeah.
Versus, like
events.
Exactly.
That's the thing with magic that just becomes really difficult. Is like, okay, it didn't erase objects. So he does have documentation, but the first time someone like calls anybody connected to him, it's like
he's gonna have no references.
He has no reference. Like anybody who calls the school that has his records, they're gonna be like, "We've never had that student. We don't know why."
They don't need to call the school.
I know.
He's getting a GED.
I'm just saying that like the basis of like if anyone ever needed to call anybody about anything, no one remembers Peter Parker. That's I think the hard thing with magic, in terms of like. Figuring out like
the specifics
is like
it's gonna be hard. I think
is he still even able to exist as Peter? Does Peter have a credit score? Does Peter have a social security?
But I think that this brings up you do bring up a really valid point because if logically speaking, right, if the necklace didn't disappear, right, then again we can assume about all of his documentation. With that being said, all the pictures that him, Ned, and MJ took, is he still in those pictures, number one?
Yes.
That they have. And number
Do we
two,
know that?
He has the framed photo.
He does.
He does.
Yes, he does.
So he still exists in all photographs.
But it's like, who's that guy?
If you called the school up and were like, I need documentation for Peter Parker, and the person was like,
oh,
that
weird.
doesn't exist. That person doesn't exist. We'll go check.
La.
All right.
He's apparently gone to the school for 13 years, but
I have never seen him in my life.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of difficulty with like
That's weird.
right, like how much of life becomes oh that's weird that someone went to exactly.
Because Hap works with Spider-Man but doesn't know Peter Parker.
Right. So everyone knows, and that brings another question. Every memory that someone has with Spider-Man, like, I was thinking about this in the movie.
Is the face just blurred?
Or does Ned tell stories about being Spider-Man's man in the chair who just never called him back for some reason?
I think it'd be like it.
Does Mary Jane remember that she was Spider-Man's girlfriend,
I
but
think
he
it's
like
situational, because it's like if Peter shows up to the Avengers Tower as Peter, they don't remember that. If Spider-Man comes to the Avengers Tower and then, say, takes off his mask, then I think in their memory it would just be Spider-Man is there, mask on.
No, I think you could take off the mask and be like, my name's Peter, and they'd be like, okay, nice to meet you, Peter.
No, I mean like in a past memory.
Yeah, I'm saying how they would
if
remember
that had
it.
happened.
I think this also brings back your question of how does magic work, because I think it's
That's something we'll find out in the next movie, baby. MCU, take my wallet.
That's what
Yeah, I think
you already have.
I think that's the difficulty with being, what are we, 20, 30, 40 movies deep? That it's like, the universe is so interconnected that
I love it.
Everything is now either connected to something before or connected to something after. The barrier to entry in the MCU is so huge now.
I love it though. Like it's like comics. It's like comic books. There's so much lore to catch up on. When are you ever gonna be finished with
This
the
is
lore?
true.
I'm not saying it's not cool. I think it's super cool.
It is hard to get into.
It's
just like anyone could just go to a comic store and pick up a comic because it looked cool. Anyone could do that with a movie. And discover the lore.
Yeah, because how many times, like, okay, maybe you guys haven't talked to people on the street about this, but if you were to go to like Midtown Comics and you were to ask people the first comic that they ever got, right? If it was issue 1 of that story,
or if
it was like issue 96
block,
you know what I mean?
It's really interesting. Also, can we talk about the Morbius trailer real quick?
Sure.
Because in it is Raimi's Spider-Man on the wall.
Garfield's Oscorp.
And
you have
Holland's Michael Keaton.
What universe does Morbius take place in?
It's as if there are still traces of...
They didn't catch
multiversal fracture.
They didn't catch all of them.
Or some of them got sent other places.
Yeah, it's like because they didn't go home, they went...
Yeah, I think after this viewing of the Morbius trailer, I was like, all right, fine, I'll go see Morbius. I want to know how it connects.
I think it's very much, you're right. It's like, who's to say, though, that just because they found a solution to bringing all those characters back to their own place, that because they did that, and because they wished
a bunch
that
of other shit
thing,
didn't go wrong,
that everybody else who might have left came back.
Interesting. And also, the Venom symbiote, is that in Holland's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be Holland's.
Yeah. Because that's where he ended up.
The argument...
Because he saw the TV...
At the end of Venom 2.
Yeah.
And the argument that people have on the internet is that Venom is like he's like, oh, it's like you don't want to know all my knowledge. I know knowledge across like thousands of universes. Like he says something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's why, because people were like, Tom Hardy and Venom don't know Peter Parker as Spider-Man. No. They don't know him like that.
Yeah. But Venom does.
Venom might have multiversal knowledge.
Which is
who knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? Venom.
Can we?
That's nuts.
Can we talk about the villains?
Yes.
I feel like I wanted to talk about one other thing. Oh, yes. Just before we get to villains, multiversal fracture. Because we were talking about Morbius.
The one that happens at the end?
I think that the giant fracture that happens at the end is the same fracture that we see in Loki. I think that is the moment that the timelines break.
Yeah. It would make sense, wouldn't it?
And then they try and put it back together, and there's a bunch of magic that happens, and Loki ends up in the wrong universe.
But I think that further proves the point that, Michael Keaton's Vulture
got thrown somewhere else.
Thrown into another multiverse.
Hey Doc, we should talk.
It's possible.
Yeah.
What is on
But
that
also-
big whiteboard at Marvel Studios?
You also can see
Pepe
that, like,
Sylvia.
I bet you walk into Kevin Feige's office and there's just like post-it notes
Post-it
connected
notes.
like.
At this point, I bet you can't even walk in there. You're literally like, whoa, what is a
What
laser?
I was gonna say that, like, in the trailer for Multiverse of Madness, you can see that
The final end credits sequence for
Yes.
Spider-Man.
right, which, I mean, come on.
It's annoying.
Yeah, you can see
Don't give me a
that.
trailer as the final scene.
Thank you.
I like it better than I could do this all day.
Oh,
Okay.
so much
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
So much more. Please don't ever make me watch a musical number ever again.
No.
Of that.
Although very funny.
It was
Yeah.
super funny. Super funny.
You can see that two Doctor Stranges can exist and look the same, right?
Or similar. Sure.
I mean, same actor.
Same actor, yes, but
Okay.
facial hair different, hair different.
You say okay, so
Also, skin tone different. No, skin like
Yeah, a little
like,
bit.
You know what I mean?
just different tint,
Color
different-
grading, yeah.
different
I feel
color
like
grading.
he-
Make one look a little more like a villain.
More evil, so that we're obviously
Aware.
obvious. Yeah.
We're like, oh, that's the bad guy.
So you think that could be Mephisto?
Mephisto. Yes, I
You
do.
think so,
Either
too?
it's either Mephisto or, and I think me and Jeremy were talking about it as we were walking out.
Hey, audience, have you seen Marvel's What If? Because I think now's a good time.
It's MCU. If you go on Disney Plus, it
It's
says
in the MCU.
MCU
Oh, yeah.
Phase 4.
Yeah. What if?
What
you should
if?
do it. It
Yeah.
it holds some weight.
So it would be. I think it would be really crazy if that was actually Kane the Conqueror.
What? As evil Doctor Strange?
If
in
that
Multiverse
was
of
if that was a
Madness? Bro.
variant of.
I think we're gonna hold off on Kang the Conqueror until
Quantumania.
right before Quantumania. I
Yeah,
think,
we'll get a teasing.
I think we'll get a
Is
tease.
that Ant-Man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was announced as like the major villain for
Ant-Man.
Quantumania.
and the Wasp.
Oh my goodness.
So you think? I mean, I feel like a post-credit scene at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3
Makes
introducing
perfect
Kang
sense.
would make perfect
Yes.
sense.
Or end of Thor, God and Love and Thunder,
Thunder.
because we got Loki needing to get back to Thor.
Did you peep Mike? Did you peep person in the denim jacket with the star on her back in Multiverse of Madness trailer?
Yes, that what? Yes, I do. I know exactly who that is.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is one America Chavez. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Oh, hell
Miss
yeah!
Marvel.
Oh my gosh. Yo.
No,
Wait, is it Miss
I
Marvel?
wanted-
no.
Miss Marvel's the one
Miss
with
Marvel.
the hands.
Miss Marvel is gonna be the Kamala Khan.
Right.
Is gonna be Miss
Right.
Marvel. Yes, she's one of the Marvels. One of the three of them that we have right now.
That we're gonna get more of, yeah.
I'm pretty sure her character name though is just America Chavez, right?
Miss America.
Miss America, okay.
Yeah, and one of her powers is like multiversal portals
Hate
Yo.
that.
that look
Really
like
cool.
stars.
Hate
Really
that.
quick. She
Hello.
essentially, like, from what I understand from the comics that from her comic
In
lines that
Multiverse
I've
of
read,
Madness with Wanda.
from what I understand from the comic line that I read from her only comic line that she has thus far, is that she can harness the power of stars,
Okay.
right? And the energy given off that you can the energy that's like emitted by stars is essentially what part of the thing that she can use, right? Which in the comic books makes her, I think, next to characters like Galactus and like Kane the Conqueror,
Star power.
like one of the strongest heroes, people alive,
Well,
just in general.
We'll see her.
They'll nerf her.
We'll see. Yeah, of course they will.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like Captain Marvel came into the MCU and it was like, listen, she's a Power Stone. She's gonna be able to. They nerfed her. They nerfed Thanos. You gotta
Well,
nerf
yeah.
everybody.
No,
Or-
yeah,
and,
but I think that even that
She's
even
still
with
gonna be
that,
pretty
There's a lot of potential.
powerful. Yeah.
All right, back to Spider-Man.
Villains.
The villains.
Yes.
Oh,
I
villains?
the villains. Yes, they're villains. Come on.
yes, 100%. Because even from going back to us talking about this movie in chronological order,
Yeah, we
soon after we deal with the repercussions of our fun gang not getting into college because of Peter's duties. I will say I won't say them actions, right? but he saved everyone.
It's Mysterio's fault.
But
It's
Mysterio's fault.
Which I love this trend of like Thanos was right, like Mysterio was
we believe
right.
Mysterio.
Yeah, because there's always people like that who they take the opposition, you know.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic. It's very real.
We get to one of the trailer scenes of the highway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens early.
Yeah, real early.
Yeah.
I didn't think that it was going to be happening
They kick
quick.
it off real quick.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, after Peter has already gone to Stephen and been like, "Yo, can you
please
help me? Can you make people forget that I'm Spider-Man?" Right?
He says, "Can you make people forget that Mysterio said anything? Like, can you make people forget that Mysterio said I was Spider-Man?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can make everyone forget you're Spider-Man."
Right.
Oh. So Peter actually says Mysterio?
He's like, well, Mysterio said this thing, and now my life is
Well,
ruined.
I think
He says, like, can you make it so he never did that? Or, like, can you make it so it never happened?
Steven
It's one of those...
shortens it, though.
And he's just like, because that's Steven's thing.
Yeah.
Steven's thing is
The
he
simplest,
jumps to the easiest... We'll
And
just
Wong
make everybody...
is like, forget it. That's what it said.
Wong
Wong
is
says
like
something
the-
like, forget about it, and then he's like, forget about it.
Oh,
I can
that's-
make everyone
Forget
forget
it.
it.
You're
I
Spider-Man.
have the Kakalaka.
Yeah,
What was it called? The Dekabaka?
No, that's the box that holds the spell.
Yeah.
It's like the stone of Kafka.
Yeah,
the
runes of Kafka.
But then,
Right.
how
I don't
does
know.
it contain the spell in the Dodekabaka?
I don't.
It's like I was trying so hard to remember it for this. When I saw the movie, I'm gonna look it up.
But yeah, I agree. It is very much a Doctor Strange trend at this point of Steven being like, I'm just gonna shorten this
Easiest
to make
solution.
my life easy, really quick. But yeah, I think that when they go down to the chamber, the thing that is said is, are you ready for people to forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man?
Mid-cast!
Mid-cast!
He's already going! He's like, so I'm just gonna make
First
everybody
one out.
forget that you're Spider-Man, and Peter's like,
Hold on.
Pause?
Well, maybe not everybody.
And then, even though Strange is like, stop changing the spell, Strange doesn't just go, okay, pause. What do you want? What is the goal here?
I mean, that's
I
like
don't
you
know
said.
if
That's
Strange,
Steven, you know.
But
He just goes.
He's very headstrong.
Which might be the problem that he runs into in
multiverse.
Multiverse,
Yeah.
is just that he's been so headstrong and so like, I am
Ego.
right, I know what's best,
ego.
that he's got a lot of people coming for him.
Yeah.
Villains.
So then after that,
Villains? I'm still saying villains?
Villains?
They're
So
villains.
I think shortly after that is when we get the scene with Peter running to go talk to the vice dean of MIT while she's in her car on the highway, which is all right.
It's traffic.
I like
and
It's New York City.
I liked it. It was
Great
cute.
set piece.
we get Peter's very first insight into Peter's spider sense too. That
I
was
think
the
we've
first.
gotten a hint
No.
of
I
that in
don't
the last
think-
movie.
It was all over the last movie. That's the only way he fought Mysterio.
I felt like it was represented differently.
It was
this
represented
time.
differently this time, though. I will say.
We started seeing it as a tingle, like a sense when he was in the Doctor Strange like Matterverse where he got pushed out of his body. But
Yeah.
seeing it as like his awareness of things has been a thing since Far From
No,
Home.
yeah, I do agree with Mike's.
Yeah.
It felt like it was represented differently this time around. You know,
100.
Sure.
It felt
like it
more
was like
a-
it was more
panic attack.
foresight than like,
I think this time it was less I am in danger and I'm aware there's a danger coming, and more something has just changed
Yeah,
in
it's
the
like I have
feeling
a bad
of this
feeling about
world.
this. Yeah.
And I know it's not good.
Yeah, because that's the feeling I got
Yeah.
when they're all in Happy's apartment and like Green Goblin is about to like turn back into his evil state. That it's like that's such like a
Or he's
a
just
scary like claustrophobic scene because it's like
Well, 'cause
what
I
is
think they-
changing? I've never seen in any Spider-Man movie like that Spidey sense go on for like so long.
Yeah, he was like, I don't
can't-
know what's wrong. And I think part of it, and it's a small detail that they do really quick, is that May is saging the apartment.
Yes,
She's
I noticed that
walking
this time
around
around. I was
saging,
like,
and
oh,
he's like,
she-
I can't pinpoint where the bad vibe is coming from. Something's messing with
Something's
me.
off.
And then he finds
Yeah.
it. But I think that was a nice touch of like,
I
oh,
realized
May's
it
trying to
this
help, but she might actually be throwing him off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was definitely, at least for me, I got a very big sense of anxiety being represented as this Spidey sense in this movie than anything. But shortly after we get on the bridge is when we get to see Doc Ock come in for the first time, which was actually kind of wild. That I was like, wait, is that going to be him? Because I thought it was Sandman at first, because like the way
stuff was coming down,
that it was coming through or coming from the ground, and then when I finally saw that tentacle, super great fight, by the way.
Yeah, I think I don't wanna spend too much time going plot point by plot.
We've jumped around.
Yeah, mostly just because we're already like nearly 50 minutes in, and if we can talk for hours about this movie. The thing that I want to say about villains in particular is that I think this movie does a really good job of forcing the audience to be like, who is a bad guy? Who is a villain? Like, you said at the beginning, let's talk about the villains, and I said villains, ? Is Otto Octavius a villain?
In this movie, yeah.
Or is he a man who has a really represented mental problem?
Yeah, it's the same conflict that happens in his Spider-Man 2, where by the end of it, it's like, who's controlling who in this situation?
Is Norman a villain, or is he a man with serious mental health issues? Is Sandman a villain?
Or does he just want to turn the world into
lizards?
No, I think the lizards are
They also don't really... They really were like, hey, look at all these villains! And Dr. Connors.
Yeah.
Because he really gets like, welcome back, Doc, and the Doc's just like, thanks, sure.
Yeah. Electro's greedy. He's a villain.
But I would say that Electro... I'll give Electro villain status.
Sandman's definitely not a villain because he was trying to help Peter, and then he was like, wait, are you killing us?
But he's also just trying to get home. He's just trying to get back to his daughter.
And there's no way home, Sandman. Hello.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting to see all these characters as like even when Max gets turned back, I suppose, there's a sense of like, he wasn't trying to be a villain because he wanted to like be evil. He was just somebody who felt super like isolated and alone, and like he didn't matter, and he wasn't
powerless.
He wanted to be seen.
He wanted
to be powerful and seen, and he wanted people to acknowledge him. And
it's
not right. It's never shown as like, Max was right, but
the movie definitely makes you feel for every villain. And I appreciate that.
I think that goes back to the point that I was trying to make before, with it being like Tom Holland. This movie really solidified Tom Holland's, I think, trilogy and his whole ideology of the Spider-Man, with being like, not everyone is a villain.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves to have their moment of...
Everyone deserves a chance.
Help.
Yeah.
Spider-Man could be a villain, given the right circumstances.
I think there's an interesting dichotomy between, like...
He's a menace.
Thanos is... There really isn't a, like... Oh, well, Thanos is just trying to... Like, Eternals gives us something, kind of, but it's also way more of a, like, okay, that's a convenient side effect of what Thanos did, not his main goal. I think the Spider-Man trilogy has done a very good job of doing, like, sometimes good people do bad things for... Like, sometimes good people do bad things for the right reasons. And then 2 was, sometimes bad people do good things for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. And 3 is, but it doesn't matter because all of them deserve a second chance.
Yeah.
One full sentence of, this is what we're saying.
It's not too late to give up on anyone.
Yeah.
We should never give up on anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I think that also Peter very much goes into, before getting to meet Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, I think he almost has this thought of, well, how I could never kill somebody. I didn't kill Mysterio. Mysterio killed himself.
No, I know hate.
You know
he was part of Thanos' death.
Yeah, but
alien that attacked. Like, I could never kill another human.
He didn't kill.
The idea of like, I could
Spider-Man
never.
isn't the one who killed, really.
Yeah.
I feel like he must have killed something in that fight.
Yeah, although
whether it's like a moment that just
that
just passes, like he's been part of death, but never the death of like a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's never had to like kill one of his own species.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Something close to home.
He didn't do it to
next
Vulture.
movie.
No, he saved Vulture.
Vulture he saved. You know what I mean? And so yeah.
This was the first time we've really had people like close to Tom's Spider-Man besides Iron Man, because that was a huge death, but that happened in like its own movie. This was the first time we got to see a death that was like, oh,
really impactful.
Yeah, for him.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm saying. So that I think that's part of the reason why I came out of this being like, I didn't think that they would be able to pass Endgame in that way, because they spent almost 10 years building up one character to have his final arc concluded in that fashion, that way. And then
this movie
character,
I'm very impressed by, like, for me, like, the neat little bow it ties on like so many versions of Spider-Man, you know?
Yes.
This feels like a satisfying conclusion to not one, but three whole trilogies. It's like really incredible, the storytelling that's going on there.
I will agree with you that I felt like there was a lot of really beautiful bows being tied for specifically the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Like, for instance, Andrew's Peter knows how to catch.
Thank God.
And because he wasn't able to catch
You called it. You called it way before the movie came out. You were like, Andrew's gonna come, Peter's gonna go get him, and then he's gonna miss, and then Andrew's gonna come in and save her, and it's gonna be a redeeming moment. And it fucking
the moment I saw him jump, the first time we saw the movie, I remember just saying, like, oh my gosh, he knows how to catch her, so she won't get hurt. Because he's done it before, and he did it wrong.
That CGI is so bad.
And
they land.
Oh yeah, that's not a great... There's one or two moments like that where I was like, oh, that's CGI.
That moment is so bad. When he lands with MJ, bad.
And then it's like, oh, the actors are back.
Yeah. I saw it, but I didn't care just because the emotional impact is too much.
If you see it again, my God, it's going to look like they're made of rubber.
It did a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but...
Really, I like that. I like the little tying of that as like, oh, he did it.
Yeah.
He fixed his mistake.
Totally.
Yeah.
Ned has magic, guys.
Yeah, what about that? Who is he?
Yeah.
Does he even remember?
Okay, there's two interesting things in Ned's story. There's two interesting things, right? There's when Spidey comes back from the mirror universe and he goes like this to him, and there's that little spark between them. And I was like, I know Ned's
wearing the sling ring.
Yeah.
Yes, I know Ned's already had that like power in him, but maybe Spidey being fresh off like the mirror universe is like rubbing your feet against like a carpet and having that and being able to transfer that little bit of energy.
Possibly, they do make sure that they slip a line in very early that's like, my grandma's always said we have magic, and I feel kind of tingly, and Doctor Strange is like, go to a physician.
Yeah.
That's like thrown away as a joke, but then it's like, oh no, he has magic!
Yeah. And then the second part, and I noticed it, like, when we get that, like, small, like, tour of, like, Ned's apartment, there's this wall with, like, knives, and I almost feel like it has, like, what is that? That feels like it means something.
I felt like it was either connected to either the sorcerers or... I think definitely more the sorcerers. I was gonna say or what they were kind of dealing with in Shang-Chi, but I think it's definitely the sorcerers.
Oh, like Doctor Strange and like this whole crew of sorcerers and shit.
Yeah. Of folk.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, Wong's the Sorcerer Supreme. Yeah,
Wong's the Sorcerer
Supreme. On a technicality.
On a technicality.
Because I blipped for 5 years.
That's really great. Yeah. Wow. It seems like...
But also, I'm sure that when he got back, Wong was like, do you want the title back? Like, I'll give it to you. And Steve was like,
you keep it.
I don't want to be Sorcerer Supreme.
You know what? It's probably the title's better.
Shout out to Willem Dafoe for doing his own stunts, because that fight scene was so
crazy.
Sick.
And talking about that fight scene too, I think the thing that I love consistently about the Marvel MCU is that when it comes to comics, they have done such a great job with always coming back to the character's original character design, but doing something different. Because they could have just kept his helmet on him. They could have done that.
I liked breaking the helmet, yeah.
But I like the breaking of the helmet, and I love the purple hood.
Yeah, and I love that, and I love that the entire time he was wearing his suit underneath the fit. Just like
Spider-Man is old habits die hard.
Peter and Spider-Man, you know?
Yeah.
Old habits die hard, And that, and also
the strength on that, man.
Yeah, when Norman Osborn takes off his mask, it's like very reminiscent of like Spider-Man 2 when Peter like takes off his mask and like wants
garbage,
you know, it's just the parallels.
Yeah,
are so
I thought
great.
I was really those fights are brutal.
Yeah.
Especially for
Fight in
like
this movie is
for
great.
for a Marvel movie, like where I feel like a lot of complaints that I have quite often with Marvel are like, this is just a bunch of people on a green screen throwing energy beams at each other, and I don't feel any of it. The fight with Peter and Norman inside Happy's apartment building.
Physical. It's nasty.
He
It's personal.
spine busters Peter through
That
6
was
floors.
crazy. That it really, really does. You know what I mean? And I feel like, for me, I kind of wished that one of Toby's emotional notes during this whole thing, right, would have been a moment with Norman rather than Otto, because I feel like I feel like there's just more there rather than, because again, I'm not taking away from the fact that Otto wasn't an impact in Peter's life.
The only interaction they had was when Toby saved Willem Dafoe's life.
There might be a sense of not
There
being
was-
able to like even interact with him anymore, because
Or-
like he killed him. He's responsible for his death.
Or he's just accept that's the thing that I was going to say to that too, is the fact that Toby might have, or Peter might have already had that time to come to grips with the things that he did. So seeing him again, you know, was more like a, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
I
that
gotta deal with
chapter's
that
closed.
later. But I also would say about Otto and his relationship is that in Toby's universe, Peter is not particularly close to Norman. Like he's best friends with Harry, and so he's associated in Norman's life, but really Norman's connection to Peter is the like, I'm somewhat of a scientist myself. That is a joke because it's like, no you're not, you know nothing about science.
Well,
Let me go talk to the real scientist, Otto, who actually understands all the quantum physics that I want to examine, and who becomes like Peter's mentor, his like guiding light through what he's gonna do going forward. I wish there had been a moment between Norman and Toby, but there.
Yeah.
I feel like it's satisfying to have
Good
the "How are you doing, my boy? I'm trying to do better."
And that's
From
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. Oh, also, I don't know if you guys realized especially watching it the second time, when Otto is describing exactly when he blipped away, is actually during the bank scene, but to that he's when he pulls Aunt May out of the window, right?
Oh,
When
yeah,
they have that
I
whole
had
fight.
him by the throat.
It's them climbing up the.
See,
building.
I thought
it was
him
the final
grabbing-
fight.
Yeah, it's right before he dies. It's when he's
Yeah.
in the
Almost underwater.
Yeah, he's in the machine
The
and he
river.
has Spider-Man pinned against the wall, and he's about to kill him,
Oh,
but the thing shorts.
Because then it would make
Yeah,
sense.
okay,
Then
that-
it makes sense of us to when they all go back.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And why it's such a dangerous moment, because they're all going back to literally the second before
They die.
the thing that kills them. Because Max even says, he's like, I was in the grid and I was about.
Oh shit!
That's
death.
death.
Yeah.
That's when his character died. He went into the grid and then they pulled the plug and he died.
All right. Final scores out of 10.
Final scores.
9.
9.
9.
9.
9.
Nines across the board.
I thought at least one of you would do like a 9.5 or a 10.
No.
9.
9.
9.
Nice!
Solid frickety movie.
It was very good. I enjoyed it a lot. I've talked about the issues that I have.
Yeah.
But I think that it does such a good job of really bringing a bunch of things to a conclusion. Yeah. Even if it doesn't bring all of them to a conclusion. And
We'll find out more.
Leaves us with more!
Morbius, Spider-Man universe, Venom, who knows?
Oh,
Multiverse of
yeah,
Madness.
just before we go, the podcast where I was talking about West Side Story, where I said that I saw a bunch of spoilers before we saw West Side Story, was AMC did a video that was like, in the Morbius trailer, you can see Maguire's Spider-Man on the wall, and the Garfield us, and I was like, you guys are just blaring
You don't give a
this.
fuck, do ya?
You don't care. And they started it with a little bit of a nod to No Way Home, and I was like,
Bro.
you just threw that out there.
Ruined
AMC,
Awful. Do better.
Thanks for the
Also,
A-stubs.
Thank you.
And
for
thank
the
you for
A-list.
IMAX. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was
was.
great in IMAX.
Dolby or IMAX? as the last question. That's my last question that I want to ask.
You answer it.
Dolby. I would rather have... I personally thought this movie was better experienced in Dolby. There was not a shot that I saw that I was like, wow! But there were moments that I heard in the Dolby that I was like, ooh, that hit a little harder, or like, that was a little sharper.
Agree. Dolby.
I guess Dolby. Yeah. This film isn't filmed in IMAX,
Yeah.
so since it doesn't take full advantage of it, it was great to see it on such a tall screen. You
Yeah,
know?
it was
really
like
cool.
I'm always like kind of at awe whenever I go to that IMAX, but yeah, this is a good Dolby movie.
You
Alright.
only saw the IMAX.
IMAX.
Yeah.
But IMAX is lit too. See it any way you can.
See it any way you can.
See it on your phone, on your
No, see it on a screen.
Just see it any way you can. Just enjoy the movie. That's what
Yes.
we want you to
Enjoy it, but don't like pirate it. You wouldn't steal a car.
You wouldn't
Well,
download a car.
And I would. Anyway.
If you could, I would. If I could, I would.
Download a car? Yeah. Download a purse, you know?
Anyway, if you've seen Spider-Man No Way Home, send us a message or comment below on this video and let us know what you thought. And if we missed anything,
If you want to argue with us about why we're wrong, like
Yeah.
we'll totally.
we will engage in conversation with you as long
Bring it
as
on.
yeah.
respectfully.
Actually, yeah.
Respectfully.
Until then, I've been Logan Riley Bruner,
I've been Jimmy Van Suarez.
I've been Jacob Wade.
And I've been Michael Jorge.
and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
See you.